Now, all throughout this course, we'll be looking at a wide variety of Max for Live devices that we can use for modulation. Some of these devices are provided directly by the company Ableton themselves. Some of these devices, though, are provided by third-party companies, and not all of them are free, but they're all pretty modestly priced. Now, the next device that I'm going to show you comes from a suite of devices, which we can locate on the Ableton website here. And this is made by a company called K Devices. We have 4 different modulators here that offer us some unique functionality compared to the devices that we just saw. And we're going to explore one called TED Effects. So again, if you're interested, you can find this particular live pack on the Ableton website. Just look for packs, Max for Live, and you should be able to find it there. Now, I happen to have my live pack installed here under Places, Packs, and I see Modulators by K Devices. And as I said, I want to use something called TED Effects. This is actually yet another LFO, but again, there's some unique functionality, which means you might want to choose this over the first 2 LFOs that we looked at. So what I think I'd like to do is go to track 3 here. On track 3, I have a drum synth instrument. This is yet another Max for Live device. This particular drum synth generates a hi-hat sound, and then I'm using an arpeggiator to make this play at a 16th note rate. So let's listen to what this sounds like. All right, pretty straightforward, just a 16th note hi-hat pattern. But maybe I could use the TED Effects device to modulate the sync rate or something else. Let's try it out. So let me grab TED Effects. This is an audio device. So we place this at the end of our instruments, and here's my LFO. So just like we saw before, we have a cyclical waveform, and we can see it visually displayed here. I can change the shape of the waveform, but what's really cool about this is you can actually kind of morph the shape of the waveform so that instead of choosing a specific type of shape, we're essentially kind of blending between these. All right, so you see at this point, this is a sawtooth, and this is a rectangle or pulse or square, whichever you prefer. And as we blend between them, we can see we're basically morphing from one shape to the other. So already this is a very unique feature that we don't have in the first 2 LFOs that we checked out. We also have the ability to play with the phase here. Now before we talk more about the features, let's go ahead and just map this to a parameter. When I want to map this to something, you see right here, this looks like a little target. I'm going to click here, and now I can select a destination to map this LFO to. I want to modulate the rate of my arpeggiator, so I just click here, and now we can see that is being controlled by TED Effects. If I play this right now, it's going to seem a little weird out of character without any other rhythmic thing to listen to this hi-hat against. So I'm going to unsolo this track. I'll mute my 2 synths, and we'll play this alongside the drums I have on track 1. So that's a bit random, okay? It's a little bit inconsistent, so we want to try to make this a little more sensible for our uses here, all right? So let me go ahead and adjust the wave shape to something a bit more consistent. Let's just go for, I actually like having a sawtooth here. This will ramp up. Now, like what we saw with the other LFOs, we're able to adjust the speed. Right now I have this up here, which is going to determine how quickly or slowly that I'm operating through this LFO. So we can see the cycle change there. Another unique feature, though, is that we can actually make it so that if I disable this loop, all right, so now the LFO is actually not operating at all. We have a button here where I can trigger this, and now we can generate this LFO and make it pulse 3 different times. All right, we see that here. If I increase the number here, now when I press the button, we're going to get this wave shape to generate basically 18 pulses. So again, this is going to be a very cool way to utilize the LFO only when you want to. You can enable this for certain parts of a song or certain parts of a performance. And this is something we didn't see in the other 2 LFOs. Some other quick things to point out: if you happen to have modular gear, if you're taking advantage of control voltage, this device can actually send out control voltage messages as well. So it's a nice way to integrate this into your modular setup. Speaking of control voltage, if you're someone who uses a lot of modular gear, if you're into Eurorack stuff, having this ability to use modular devices inside of Ableton Live that can send the appropriate messages to your hardware can be pretty important. So you want to consider these things when you're choosing the devices that integrate properly into your setup. Now, with that said, we have some more to check out, and we're going to stick with K Devices for now. So let's see what else they have in their live pack.